My husband won $9 million, left me and the kids and ran off with a young employee. Then came crawling back, but I kicked him out and I still remember the exact moment when my life changed forever. It wasn't a dramatic event like a car crash or a house fire. No, it was something much simpler. A slip of paper, a few numbers, a dumb, impulsive decision my husband, Derek, made at a gas station on his way home from work. It was a Wednesday night when he burst through the front door, grinning like a lunatic. I was in the kitchen, trying to wrestle a pot of spaghetti onto 3 plates while my youngest, Noah, wailed from his high chair. Olivia and Jake were fighting over a blue crayon at the table. Just a normal, chaotic evening. Then Derek, still in his button-down from work, held up a tiny slip of paper like it was the Holy Grail. "Natalie," he gasped, breathless. "I won. I fucking won." I barely glanced at him. "Won what?" "The lottery." He slapped the ticket onto the counter. $9 million. That got my attention. "What?" I wiped my hands on a dish towel, stepping closer. "Wait, what do you mean won?" He was already pulling out his phone, refreshing the lottery website like a man possessed. I stopped at the gas station and bought a ticket on a whim. Checked the numbers just now. "It's real, Nat. We're rich." My heart hammered in my chest. This had to be a mistake. Stuff like this didn't happen to people like us. Derek worked a mid-level finance job, and I had put my nursing career on hold to raise our 3 kids. We weren't poor, but we weren't exactly rolling in money either. I grabbed the ticket, staring at the numbers. Then I looked at the website on his phone. Every single number matched. A dizzy rush of emotion hit me all at once. Shock, excitement, terror. My mind immediately leaped to all the possibilities. Paying off our mortgage, securing the kids' futures, maybe even taking a real vacation for once. I threw my arms around Derek. "Oh my God, Derek. This is incredible." He laughed, but it wasn't his normal laugh. It was wild, almost manic. I know, right? At the time, I didn't think much of it. I figured he was just overwhelmed. But looking back, that was the moment I should have known. That was the moment I should have realized Derek wasn't going to share this win with us. The first few days after the win were a blur. Derek immediately called in sick to work, saying he needed to get his affairs in order. Then he filed the claim, and within 2 weeks, we had millions sitting in our bank account. That was when things started to change. At first, it was subtle. Derek started dressing differently, swapping his usual polo shirts and khakis for expensive, name-brand clothes. He spent hours scrolling through real estate listings for mansions we didn't need. Then he started ignoring my calls and texts during the day, something he never used to do. Then came the vacation talk. "I think I need a break," he told me one night after the kids were asleep. "Just for a couple of weeks." "A break?" I frowned. "From what?" "From everything," he said vaguely. "I've been working nonstop for years. I need to breathe a little, Nat." Something about the way he said it made my stomach twist. "Derek, we have 3 kids. If anyone deserves a break, it's—" He cut me off. "I was thinking of going to Hawaii." My mouth fell open. "Hawaii?" "Yeah. I need some time to figure out what I want to do with my life now." His words hit me like a slap. "What you want to do with your life?" I echoed. "Derek, what are you talking about? We have a life. A family. 3 kids who—" "Jesus, Natalie. I'm not saying I'm abandoning you," he snapped, rubbing his temples. "I just need space." That was when I knew. Something was wrong. Derek told his boss he was taking a leave of absence, saying he needed time to sort out his financial future. His company, understanding that he was now a multimillionaire, gave him time off without question. A few days later, he packed his bags and left. I begged him to stay. "At least let us come with you," I pleaded. "The kids?" "No, Nat. I just need to go alone." That night, after tucking Olivia, Jake, and Noah into bed, I did something I had never done before. I checked his phone. His Instagram was logged in. My hands trembled as I scrolled. Then I saw it. A photo of Derek on a private beach. A woman beside him. Young. Beautiful. Kayla. I knew her. She worked at his office. The woman my husband had left us for. My chest constricted. My hands went ice cold. I scrolled further. Picture after picture. Derek and Kayla drinking champagne on a yacht. Derek buying her a diamond necklace. A caption that read, "Living my best life." He wasn't on a break. He wasn't figuring out his future. He had abandoned us. I couldn't breathe. I turned off the phone, gripping the edge of the counter to keep from collapsing. The next morning, Olivia saw the pictures. I didn't even realize she had taken my phone until I heard her little voice say, "Mommy, why is Daddy with that lady?" I turned around to see my 8-year-old daughter holding the phone, confusion and sadness written all over her face. I wanted to shield her from this, to protect her. But how do you explain to a child that her father just threw his family away for a woman half his age? Tears welled in my eyes as I crouched down and took the phone from her. "Daddy is making bad choices, sweetheart." Her lip trembled. "Is he coming home?" I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth. "I don't know." For weeks, Derek ignored me. Ignored the kids. The only thing I could do was watch as he paraded his new life online, his posts getting more extravagant by the day. I stopped calling, stopped texting. I knew he wasn't coming back, but he was about to learn that he couldn't just walk away from his responsibilities. One morning, I woke up with a plan. I called my parents. "Mom," I said, voice shaking, "I need a lawyer." Margaret didn't hesitate. "I'll find you the best one." Derek thought he could just walk away and start over. He had no idea what was coming for him. The moment I decided to fight back, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to be the helpless wife sitting at home, crying over a man who had already moved on. I wasn't going to let my children grow up thinking their father could just disappear without consequences. Derek might have abandoned us for a young, pretty distraction, but he was about to learn that he couldn't just erase his past. The first thing I did was hire a lawyer. My mother, Margaret, wasn't the type to sit back and watch her daughter suffer. Within days, she had found me Thomas Langley, one of the best divorce lawyers in town. Thomas was a no-nonsense, sharp-dressed man in his 40s with a reputation for tearing apart men like Derek in court. When I met him in his office, I was still shaken, still trying to hold myself together. "I want a divorce," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "And I want full custody of my kids." Thomas nodded, flipping through his notepad. "And child support. Alimony, too. Your husband won $9 million and abandoned you. We're going to make sure you and your children get what you're owed." It was the first time since Derek left that I felt a sliver of control. But before I could even process what was happening, Derek was spiraling even further. It wasn't enough that he had left me and the kids. It wasn't enough that he had replaced me with Kayla, the 24-year-old junior assistant from his office. No, Derek had to shove it in my face. His social media posts were relentless. Pictures of candlelit dinners on the beach, Kayla sitting on his lap, their glasses clinking together. Videos of him renting a Lamborghini, driving down the coast with the top down, Kayla laughing beside him. A selfie of him wearing a Rolex with the caption, "Only the best." It was like he had forgotten his old life ever existed. I told myself I wouldn't look, but I kept checking. I hated that I did, but I needed to see how far he was going, how much he was burning through the money. And oh, he was burning through it fast. Private yacht parties, 5-star resorts, custom-tailored suits. I could only imagine how much he had already wasted in just a few weeks. Meanwhile, back home, I was explaining to our kids why their father wasn't calling. "Daddy's busy," I told Olivia when she asked why he hadn't said goodnight in weeks. I wanted to tell her the truth. But how do you tell an 8-year-old that her father had chosen a vacation and a new woman over his own family? I had no idea that Derek was about to lose everything. A month into his dream vacation, Derek started to notice something was off with Kayla. She was always on her phone, texting someone when she thought he wasn't looking. She had stopped being as affectionate, rolling her eyes when he made expensive grand gestures. And then one evening, when Derek went back to their resort room early, he saw something that made his stomach drop. Kayla was sitting on the balcony, wrapped around another man. Derek froze in the doorway. The man was tall, tan, and muscular, an Australian surfer. His arms were around Kayla's waist, his lips at her neck as she laughed. Derek lost it. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. Kayla didn't even flinch. She just turned, her expression bored as she pulled herself out of the surfer's grip. "Oh," She said casually. You're back early? Derek's head spun. You're cheating on me? Kayla sighed, getting up and brushing sand off her legs. Oh, grow up, Derek. The surfer, Liam, smirked at Derek like he was a joke. I mean, come on, Kayla continued, crossing her arms. Did you really think this was forever? Derek's hands clenched into fists. His heart pounded. I gave you everything, he hissed. Kayla shrugged. Yeah, and it was fun. But Liam's way more exciting than you. Derek lunged toward Liam, but the surfer just laughed, stepping back. She's not yours, mate, Liam said, his Australian accent thick. She was never yours. Derek was shaking with rage. Then Kayla dropped the real bombshell. Oh, and by the way, she said with a smirk, I transferred all the money. Derek blinked. What? She tilted her head. You remember that account you set up for me? The one with access to your winnings? Derek went pale. Kayla grinned. Yeah, it's empty now. He couldn't breathe. $7 million. Gone. All of it. Derek turned to his phone, frantically trying to check his banking app. His account was wiped out. Kayla grabbed Liam's hand, laughing. Later, Derek. And just like that, they walked out of his life. They flew to Australia the next morning, leaving Derek stranded. With less than $2 million left, Derek had no choice but to return home. He thought about staying in Hawaii, but the money would run out fast. He had nothing left. No woman, no mansion, no yacht, and now, no choice but to crawl back to the wife and kids he had abandoned. He didn't even tell me he was coming back. One evening, I was cooking dinner for the kids when the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and walked to the front door, expecting my parents. Instead, when I opened it, I saw Derek standing there, tanned, smelling like expensive cologne, wearing designer clothes. I stared at him. He grinned like nothing had happened. Hey, babe, he said. I'm home. Something inside me snapped. I slammed the door in his face. Derek banged on the door. Nat, come on. Open up. I locked it. Natalie, don't be like this. I turned and walked away, my hands shaking with fury. Nat, Derek yelled. I still have money left. We can fix this. I whipped around, shouting through the door. Fix this? You left us, Derek. You ran off with some girl and wasted everything. He had the audacity to sigh. I made a mistake, okay? But I came back. I want to make things right. I laughed right in his face. The kids ran into the hallway, Olivia peeking around my legs. Mommy? Who's yelling? I turned cold. You need to leave, Derek. Babe. I stepped forward, voice like steel. If you don't leave, I will call the police. He stared at me. Finally, he backed away. But before he left, he said something that made my blood run cold. You'll regret this. I watched him walk away. I wasn't afraid, because Derek was the one who was about to regret everything. I had already called Thomas. The divorce papers were ready, and soon, I was going to take him for everything he had left. I stood at the door, gripping the handle so tightly my knuckles turned white, watching Derek walk away like the pathetic excuse of a man he was. I should have felt something, anger, sadness, even relief, but all I felt was determined. Derek thought he could just waltz back into my life, flash what little money he had left, and pretend nothing had happened, that he hadn't publicly humiliated me, that he hadn't abandoned his 3 children for a cheap, temporary thrill. No, I was going to destroy him. I didn't waste a single second. The next morning, I met Thomas Langley, my lawyer, in his office. He already had the divorce papers drawn up, thick stacks of documents ready to file. First, Thomas said, adjusting his tie, we're filing for divorce on grounds of abandonment and marital misconduct. Given that he left you and the children for another woman, we have strong evidence. I nodded, trying to stay focused. Next, he continued, flipping through another file. We're demanding full custody of the children. Given his reckless behavior, desertion, and lack of financial planning, I'd say he doesn't stand a chance. I exhaled slowly. And child support? Thomas smirked. Oh, we're not just going after child support. We're going for alimony, too. I blinked. You think we can get alimony? He leaned forward, tapping the papers. Derek won $9 million while you were a stay-at-home mother. He has an obligation to provide for you and your children, especially since he recklessly blew most of his winnings. The courts will see that you sacrificed your career for your family while he was out playing millionaire with his mistress. I swallowed hard. And how much are we asking for? Thomas sat back, completely calm. Everything he has left. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Derek didn't take the news well. A few days after the divorce papers were served, he showed up at my house again, furious. "You're suing me?" he yelled, shoving the papers in my face. I crossed my arms, standing firm. "No, Derek. I'm divorcing you. There's a difference." "This is insane," he snapped. "You're asking for everything. You left us, Derek. You abandoned your own kids." My voice shook with rage. "You spent $7 million on a woman who left you for a surfer. You don't get to walk away from your responsibilities." His jaw clenched. "I still have rights." I laughed in his face. "Do you? Because I'm pretty sure the courts are going to see what kind of man you are." His face turned red. "I'll fight this, Natalie. You can't take my money." I leaned in, lowering my voice. "Watch me." Derek stormed off, but I could tell he was scared. And he had every reason to be. The divorce hearing was a full-blown war. Derek hired a lawyer, Susan Monroe, a woman known for defending men against vindictive ex-wives. She tried to paint me as a woman trying to destroy Derek out of spite. Unfortunately for them, I had facts. In court, Thomas laid out everything. Bank statements showing how much money he wasted. Evidence that he hadn't seen his children in over a month. I sat in the courtroom, stone-faced as Susan tried to defend him. "Your Honor," she said, addressing Judge Patterson, "my client acknowledges his mistakes, but he is willing to be a responsible father and provide support. We believe his wife is attempting to punish him rather than seek a fair resolution." Thomas didn't even blink. "Your Honor," he said smoothly, "let's talk about what responsibility really looks like." Then he pulled out printed screenshots of Derek's Instagram posts. I saw Derek shift uncomfortably. Thomas held up one picture, Derek and Kayla drinking champagne in a private jet. Then another, Derek with a Rolex, captioned, "Only the best." Then the worst one, a post from Kayla's account with the caption, "Spending his money before someone else does." The courtroom murmured. Even the judge's eyebrows rose. Judge Patterson adjusted his glasses and looked at Derek. "Mr. Campbell," he said dryly, "do you believe this reflects responsibility?" Derek's face turned red. He stammered that was a different time. The judge sighed. "Let's move to custody." That was when Thomas really went in for the kill. He presented evidence of abandonment, texts I sent to Derek that he ignored, testimony from my parents who had to help take care of the kids, even a written statement from Olivia's school counselor, noting how her father's absence had affected her emotionally. Judge Patterson wasn't impressed. "Mr. Campbell," he said sternly, "you have shown no reasonable effort to maintain contact with your children. Your financial irresponsibility and reckless behavior make it clear you are unfit for joint custody." Then came the final blow. "We are awarding full custody to Mrs. Campbell. Mr. Campbell will have supervised visitation once a month, pending review." Derek's face went pale. And as for financial support, the judge glanced at the paperwork. Given Mr. Campbell's significant earnings and his failure to provide for his family, he is ordered to pay $5,000 per month in child support and $2,500 per month in alimony for 5 years. Derek made a strangled sound. That's all the money I have left." Judge Patterson raised an eyebrow. "Then I suggest you find a job." The gavel came down. The courtroom erupted. Derek had lost everything. Outside the courthouse, Derek cornered me. "You ruined me," he whispered. I stared at him, completely calm. "No, Derek. You ruined yourself." He was shaking. "I don't even have enough to rent an apartment." "That's not my problem," I said coldly. "Maybe Kayla and Liam can wire you some of the money they stole." He flinched. Then he did something pathetic. He reached for my hand. "Natalie, please." His voice cracked. I don't know what to do. For a moment, I just looked at him. The man who had once been my husband. The man who had thrown away everything for nothing. Then I stepped back. Figure it out. And with that, I walked away. Derek's parents tried to drag my name through the mud. Linda and Frank told everyone that I had set Derek up, that I had cheated first. But no one believed them. I was done defending myself. With the settlement secured, I was able to move forward. I went back to nursing school, finally finishing my degree. My kids had everything they needed. And Derek? Last I heard, he was living in a tiny studio apartment, working a basic accounting job. No mansion, no fancy cars, no Kayla, just karma. And honestly, I've never slept better. I should have known Derek wouldn't go down quietly. For a few weeks after the court ruling, I enjoyed a rare sense of peace. Derek was out of my life, legally bound to pay for his children, and I was finally able to breathe again. But then his parents started their revenge campaign. It started with whispers, little rumors that trickled through our old social circles. Friends started acting weird around me, giving me awkward looks at school pickups or hesitating before answering my calls. I didn't know why until my best friend, Lisa, called me. "Natalie, you need to see this." She sent me a screenshot from Facebook. Linda, Derek's mother, had written a long, dramatic post about how I had manipulated the courts and turned the kids against their father. She claimed that I had been cheating on Derek for years and had orchestrated his downfall just to take his money. The comments were even worse. Some of Derek's old co-workers were chiming in, saying, "I always thought Natalie was shady. Poor Derek. She set him up. No wonder he left her." I saw one comment from Derek himself. "I loved my wife. I wanted my family. But she made sure that would never happen." My blood boiled. This man had publicly cheated on me, abandoned me, stolen my family's security for a woman who ran off with his money. And now he was playing the victim? Fine. If Derek wanted to fight dirty, he had no idea what he was in for. I called Thomas immediately. "This is defamation," I said, furious. "They're slandering me." Thomas sighed. "It's disgusting, but we need to be smart. Are they making false claims that affect your career, your finances?" I froze. I hadn't thought about my job. I was in the middle of getting my nursing degree. If someone looked me up and saw these lies, it could jeopardize everything. "That's it," Thomas said, his voice sharp. "We're filing a defamation lawsuit." And we did. We gathered everything, Linda's Facebook posts, Derek's comments, even messages that had been sent to mutual friends accusing me of cheating. When the lawsuit was served to Linda and Derek, they went ballistic. A few days later, I was picking up Olivia from school when I saw Derek waiting outside. He hadn't seen his kids in months. Now, suddenly, he wanted to play devoted father? I tensed as Olivia ran ahead of me, not noticing him yet. I stepped in front of her. "What do you want?" I snapped. Derek sighed dramatically. "Nat, can we just talk?" I crossed my arms. "We're talking now." He rubbed his face, like he was exhausted. "Look, this whole thing is getting out of control. The lawsuit? Suing my mom? Do you really want to put our kids through this?" I laughed coldly. "You didn't care about our kids when you disappeared to Hawaii, when you ignored their calls, when you spent all our money on Kayla. But now that you're broke, suddenly you're concerned?" Derek's jaw clenched. "I made mistakes, okay? But dragging this through court isn't going to fix anything." I stared at him. "No, but it's going to make sure you never do this to me again." That was when Olivia noticed him. Her face lit up. "Daddy?" My heart sank. She ran toward him. For a second, I saw guilt flash in Derek's eyes. But then he knelt down and hugged her, pretending to be the loving father he had never been. "Hey, sweetheart," he murmured. "I missed you so much." She beamed. And just like that, I felt my control slipping. Derek met my gaze over Olivia's shoulder, and I knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't here to talk. He was trying to get sympathy points for court. When the defamation case hit the courtroom, Derek and Linda tried to backpedal. Linda's lawyer argued that she had been expressing opinions and that there was no proof that her posts caused me harm. But Thomas ripped them apart. He presented screenshots of Linda's Facebook posts filled with lies, witness testimony from my professors who said they had been sent the accusations anonymously, evidence of job applications I had sent out that were suddenly ignored after the post went viral. Judge Patterson, the same judge from the divorce case, looked unimpressed. Then Thomas pulled the final card. A voice recording from a former co-worker of Derek's. It was a phone conversation where Derek admitted to spreading rumors just to ruin my reputation. The courtroom went silent. Judge Patterson turned to Linda and Derek. "This is not only defamation," he said, his voice cold, "but a clear attempt to damage Mrs. Campbell's career and reputation." He ruled in my favor. Linda had to issue a public apology. Derek had to pay me an additional $50,000 in damages, money he didn't have. I won. Again. And Derek? He broke. After the ruling, Derek tried one last desperate move. He filed an appeal to reduce his child support payments, claiming he was financially ruined. But the courts didn't care. The judge laughed him out of the courtroom. "You created this situation," the judge said. "You will deal with the consequences." Derek stormed out. That was the last time I ever saw him in a courtroom. With no money left and no way to fight me, Derek lost everything. His fancy apartment? Gone. His designer clothes? Pawned off. His reputation? Destroyed. The final cherry on top? Kayla and Liam, his ex-mistress and the Australian surfer, were married. And Kayla? She posted a picture of her engagement ring with the caption, "When you know, you know." Ring. Derek's entire life was a joke. And for the first time in months, I felt truly free. But I wasn't done yet. Because while Derek was crashing and burning, I was finally rising. The day the final court ruling came down, I stood outside the courthouse and breathed in the cold, crisp air of freedom. It was over. Derek had lost everything. His parents had humiliated themselves trying to destroy my reputation. And me? I had one. But winning didn't mean it was easy. The damage Derek had done to my life, to our children's lives, wasn't something that could be erased with a court ruling. There were still scars, still long nights of Olivia asking why her dad didn't come home. But one thing was certain. We would never be victims again. Word about the defamation case and the brutal divorce spread quickly. Derek's former co-workers started avoiding him. The same people who once cheered him on when he flaunted his money were now mocking him behind his back. He went from millionaire to nothing in record time. Man. His ex-wife took him to the cleaners. And the worst part? Derek couldn't even escape it. Since he had no money left, he had to take a low-paying accounting job just to keep up with the alimony and child support payments. The man who once bought Rolexes and rented yachts was now crunching numbers in a cubicle, wearing a cheap suit from the clearance rack. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. I didn't just want to survive. I wanted to thrive. With the financial security from the settlement, I went back to nursing school, finishing my degree at last. Margaret and Henry, my incredible parents, helped with the kids while I juggled classes and part-time work at a clinic. And for the first time in years, I started feeling like myself again. No longer the wife of a selfish man. No longer a woman trying to hold together a broken home. Just Natalie. And Natalie was finally happy. One afternoon, nearly a year after the divorce was finalized, I was sitting at a small cafe, going over patient charts when I heard a familiar voice. "Natalie?" I looked up. Derek. He looked terrible. He had bags under his eyes, his hair was a little thinner, and his once expensive suit looked like it had been through the wash too many times. For a split second, I almost didn't recognize him. Then he smiled, and it was like he thought we were old friends catching up. "How are you?" he asked, sliding into the seat across from me like he belonged there. I didn't smile back. "What do you want, Derek?" He sighed, leaning back in his chair. I don't know. I thought maybe we could talk." I raised an eyebrow. "Talk? About what?" He ran a hand through his hair. "About us. About maybe starting over." I almost laughed. "Starting over?" I repeated, tilting my head. "Derek, you didn't just leave me. You left your children. You ran off, spent millions on a woman who left you for a surfer, and only came crawling back when you had nothing left. And now you want to talk?" He winced, looking away. "I miss them," he murmured. I clenched my jaw. "Miss them? You haven't seen them in months. You have visitation rights, and you never show up." He looked down at his hands. "I know. It's hard." "No, Derek," I snapped. It was hard when I had to explain to my kids why their father was posting pictures with another woman instead of coming home to them. That was hard. You? You took the easy way out. And now you regret it? He didn't answer. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel anything for him. Not hate. Not sadness. Just nothing. I stood up, grabbing my bag. If you really miss them, prove it. Show up for them. Be a father. But don't ever think you can walk back into my life like nothing happened. Derek looked up at me, his eyes hollow. You really don't love me anymore, do you? I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. No, Derek, I don't. And with that, I walked away. A few months later, I got a job as a pediatric nurse at a great hospital. The kids were thriving. Olivia was excelling in school. Jake had joined a little league baseball team, and Noah was finally starting to talk more. We were happy. And Derek? He faded into the background. I heard from mutual acquaintances that he had tried dating again, but no one wanted to be with a washed-up ex-millionaire with baggage. Eventually, he moved away, taking a job in another state. And that was it. I thought about everything he had done, how he had hurt me, betrayed me, abandoned his family. And then I realized something. It didn't matter anymore. Because I had one. Not just in court. Not just financially. I had won my life back. And that was the best victory of all.